Now, Camilla's son Tom Parker Bowles has given a very rare interview about royal family life and responded to some of the claims made against his mum. Well, our royal editor Russell Myers is here alongside relationship expert Paul Carrick-Brunson. I guess, Russell, it sort of feels as though, you know, Prince Harry's claims about Camilla were pretty brutal, weren't they? And maybe this is quite a gentle way of just putting Camilla's side of it.
Yeah, I think so. Good morning, Lorraine. Well, I think, Tom was speaking from the heart there and defending his mother's honour, because we track back just a few weeks, we had some pretty interesting comments. The barbs thrown at Camilla's direction were pretty hurtful. Now, Harry in his memoir Spare was talking about Camilla sacrificing him on her PR altar. And I went back and checked, some of the language he was using. He's saying she began to play the long game, a campaign aimed at marriage and eventually the crown. So Tom's sort of backing up his mum and saying that, it was nothing about this sort of endgame. She married for love and it was nothing untoward.
Yeah, and if anybody had said that about any of our mothers, we would not be happy, that's for sure. Presumably, he said this or he did this interview, not with approval, but, they would know that that's what he was doing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's talking to the newsagents podcast there. You most likely would have known that he was going on there. I mean, again, talking about the language Harry used, he called her dangerous. He called her a villain. Now, of course, we're still on this old adage of never complain, never explain, aren't we? And I don't think Camilla and Charles are going to sort of move away from that, especially because there was so much said in Harry's book. They decided to keep their powder dry and not say anything. But I think it's a good tact from Tom. He came across very well, and as you say, we'd all like to think we'd defend our mum in the case of having such insults thrown at them.
No, that's very true. And then Paul, you're nodding there because this whole thing and Harry bouncing into the coronation. Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it, does it?
It doesn't, but I think that the reason why we're all fascinated by the royal family is because they're very similar to our families.
Yeah,
right?
we're all a bit dysfunctional when it comes to it, aren't we?
We're all dysfunctional, right?
Very true.
And the beauty is that you don't have to love your family. You don't even have to like your family,
right.
But you do have to figure out how to deal with them. And if you're going to a big event, there's three things that I always suggest that you do, right? One is that you stay away from conflict.
Right.
And that is staying away from the topics that you know are going to be explosive. Mm-hmm. Number two is that you don't want to be silent with the people at the event because that's not nice.
No.
So you want to figure out common ground. What are topics that you can talk about without exploding on each other?
The weather.
Right.
Isn't it nice? Isn't it sunny? Isn't it? Yeah.
Food, right? The weather.
Yeah, whatever.
Right? And then third is, remember, it's really not about you. It is about your legacy. It's about your children, especially with children being involved. So always remember it's about being kind because it's about the next generation.
Oh, that's so interesting because in their case as well, the kids are living in America, of course they are, and lots of families are split up and living in different parts of the world, but they're not really going to have that relationship with their grandfather or their uncles and aunts and all of that, the way that they probably would have if they stayed here.
Well, let's hope that they will.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I would say. Keep hope alive. And I think what's also beautiful is that when you look at the possibility of forgiveness, with forgiveness we always think that forgiveness is something that we do to someone who's hurt us.
Right.
But it's not. Forgiveness is a gift that we give ourselves.
Do you know, that's so interesting because I never thought about that before, but having spoken to a lot of people who've been in dire situations and had to forgive someone, they said that hanging on to the hate and the bitterness was eating them up.
Oh, yeah.
But actually forgiving kind of gave them power back, which I know that sounds, I don't know whether that sounds right or not.
No, it's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And what we have to realize is that forgiveness is a process.
Right.
It starts with identifying what was the negative emotion. So maybe you feel sad as a result of something that a family member did.
Right.
And as a result of feeling sad, you can't maybe get up out of your bed. So then what you have to do is replace the negative emotion with a positive motivational emotion.
Right.
So maybe that is that you're going to find joy through a song, through talking to a friend, through watching Lorraine on Fridays, You're going to figure out how to find that joy.
Yeah.
And then you replace the negative with the positive. And once the negative is fully replaced with the positive, that's forgiveness. And forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's not about excusing. It's about saying, I'm no longer going to allow that negative emotion to control me.
And that actually is a sign of strength, whereas I think a lot of people still think forgiving somebody is almost like you're being weak. You know, and that's not true. That's not true at all.
That is not true. Forgiveness is a sign of strength, and it's an act of self-love.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Very interesting to hear, and maybe it's a good thing. In fact, it is a good thing that in that interview, Tom Parker Bowles calls Prince Charles his stepfather. So they are part of that family, you know, that sort of extended, blended family.
Yeah, and there's more and more blended families. You know,
of course.
Here in the UK, over 1 million children are growing up in blended families. And they can work. You see that? It seems like, you know, Tom and Charles, they have a strong relationship.
Yeah, very much so.
It can become strong as long as you're spending time with each other, the step-parent and the stepchild. Also that you're blending in the rituals from both families. But you know what the secret to making a blended family work? It's that the step-parents spend time on their marriage. Because if they don't have a marriage, you no longer have a blended family.
Yeah, that's true. And I think Charles and Camilla, clearly, whatever you may think, and I know a lot of people are not happy about it, but the thing is, they are very happy together. And
they love each other.
They do, and she's very, very good for him as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Paul. And Russell, thank you too. Obviously, we'll be talking to you over the next couple of weeks as we lead up to the big event, the coronation.